I think that the biggest mistake that we made as a company is betting too much on HTML5 as opposed to native.
Hello all, I am Mithun and welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, we'll be addressing a controversial topic: is HTML dying? Some people claim that HTML is outdated and irrelevant in the modern web development world. In this video, we'll be exploring the history of HTML and discuss whether or not these claims are true. To do this, we'll be taking a look at the history of HTML, its popularity over the years, its downfall, and what is the future of HTML. The story of HTML started in 1980 when Tim Berners-Lee was conceptualizing the idea of the World Wide Web. At that time, the internet was still in the early stages and he needed a system to build web applications. 9 years down the line, in 1989, WWW, the World Wide Web, was invented by Tim Berners-Lee while he was working at CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research. Here, CERN is important because the first website on the World Wide Web was info.cer.ch. The page was created by Tim Berners-Lee, who invented the World Wide Web while working at CERN. The purpose of the page was to provide information about the World Wide Web project and how to use it. The first web page went live on August 6, 1991. While the original page is no longer available, but CERN has restored a copy of the page which you can even visit today, and the link is in the description. The web page was written in HTML, which was a new markup language that Berners-Lee had created to structure and display content on the web pages. The first version of HTML was not yet live by this time. However, during that year, Tim and his team proposed a set of 18 HTML elements that formed the foundation of HTML markup language. Out of 18 elements, 11 of them even exist today. HTML, the hypertext markup language, was recognized by the Internet Engineering Task Force (IETF) in 1993 in a document titled Hypertext Markup Language. The first version of HTML, referred to as HTML 1.0, was designed by Tim Berners-Lee. It is interesting to note that at that time there existed a task force for monitoring internet. That was the pace at which web was moving forward. The next year of the release, it was observed that the development of HTML was still primarily driven by Tim and the other members of the web development community, rather than any formal standards body. So the proposal of the HTML working group was put forward. The HTML working group is a group of experts in web development who are responsible for the ongoing development and maintenance of the HTML standard. HTML 2.0 was a significant step. It enabled developers to create more complex and visually appealing web pages with greater functionalities like adding images, tables, and forms. This HTML 2.0 was released by the Internet Engineering Task Force, which was the authority for HTML in 1995. 2 years later, the HTML working group was formed and it took over the responsibility for development of HTML from the Internet Engineering Task Force. Since then, the group has been responsible for the development of number of important versions of HTML, including HTML 4.0, XHTML, and the present HTML5. It is important to note that even after the release of HTML 2.0, HTML was still not standardized. In 1997, the proposal to make HTML a standard for developing applications for web was made. 3 years later, in 2000, HTML became the international standard to develop and display web content on the web browsers. After the release of HTML4 in 2000, web development continued to grow at a rapid pace, and developers were looking for ways to make their web pages more interactive and dynamic. In response to these developments, the work on a new version of HTML that would incorporate many of these new features and capabilities began. This work began in 2004 and the release of HTML5 as a formal recommendation was done in 2014. And the same version of HTML, the HTML5, is being used even today. Looking at the fascinating history on the rise of HTML, it is important to define what is HTML. There has been a constant debate on is HTML a programming language or not. I found the best definition of HTML on Wikipedia. It says the hypertext markup language, or simply HTML, is the standard markup language for documents designed to be displayed in a web browser. It explains so simply. While HTML is often described as a programming language, it is technically a markup language rather than a programming language. This is because HTML does not have the ability to perform complex computations or manipulate data in the same way that programming languages like Python or JavaScript can. Instead, HTML is used to define the structure and content of web pages, while other technologies are used to add interactivity and styling. So HTML is simply a document which instructs web browser on how to display the content on the screen. When you view a web page in your web browser, the browser reads the HTML code and uses it to construct a visual representation of the page on your screen. This means that all the content that you see on the page, including text, images, videos, and other media, is ultimately defined in the HTML code. The popularity of this tool in the web is unbeatable. 94.8% websites now till date use HTML. Others use XHTML. XHTML is simply a markup language based on HTML itself, designed to be compatible with XML, a other markup language. It is more stricter structured than HTML, and it seems like it extends the capability of HTML while also making it more compatible with other web technologies. But 94.8% of the websites even till date uses HTML. When compared with programming languages, yes, this is not a fair comparison, but comparing HTML with programming languages, HTML holds second position after JavaScript with 55.08 developers using it. This is so much popular that even in building online scam applications, HTML is being used. As per 2022 records, HTML attachments are the most popular among phishing attacks. You might have seen links which look similar to Google sign-in or a banking application which scammers use by replicating their web pages. As soon as you enter the details, it will be sent to the scammers. In the recent days, due to multiple reasons, we see the downfall of HTML. Many say that HTML popularity is going down due to the frameworks, templates, and no-code web builders. While this is not accurate, this is not an accurate representation of the current state of web development. While frameworks and templates can make it easier to create web pages, HTML remains a foundational technology for the web and continues to be widely used by developers all over the world. HTML is the foundational technology of the World Wide Web and remains the most widely used markup language for creating web pages. But there is one case we must all be aware of. On September 2012, Mark Zuckerberg revealed that Facebook's biggest mistake was betting too much on HTML5. At that time, Facebook was working on a mobile app that was built using HTML5, but the app was slow and didn't perform well on mobile devices. This led Zuckerberg to comment that company had to bet heavily on HTML5 and that it was time to focus more on building native apps that could deliver better user experience. Facebook began to shift its mobile strategy to focus more on building native apps, and company released a new version of mobile app for iOS and Android that was built using native programming languages. At that time, the native programming language for iOS and Android were Objective-C and Java. In recent years, Facebook has also embraced new technologies like React Native, which allows developers build native apps using JavaScript and other web technology tools. This was the case where HTML faced backlash. There is another one such case which proved the importance of HTML to the world. In 2010, Apple published an open letter titled Thoughts on Flash, in which company explained its decision not to support Adobe Flash on its mobile devices such as iPhone and iPad. The letter, written by then CEO Steve Jobs, criticized Flash and argued that HTML5 was the better alternative for delivering multimedia content on the web. Today, HTML5 is the most widely used technology for creating web content, and it is supported by all major web browsers and mobile devices. Flash, on the other hand, has been largely phased out and is no longer supported by most web browsers and mobile devices. Now, for someone who is thinking, is HTML dying? The answer is clear no. HTML has been the backbone of the web since its inception, and it has continued to evolve and adapt to meet the changing needs of developers and users. Despite the rise of new technologies and frameworks, HTML is still widely used for building websites, and it remains the standard markup language for the web. Ultimately, while the web may continue to evolve and change in the years to come, HTML is likely to remain a fundamental part of web's infrastructure and to continue playing a key role in the development of websites and web applications. In conclusion, while there have been concerns about the future of HTML in the face of competition from new technologies and frameworks, it is clear that HTML is not dying. HTML remains the backbone of the web, and it is the standard markup language for websites and web applications. While there are new technologies and frameworks emerging all the time, these are likely to be built on the top of HTML and to rely on it for their core functionalities. So if you are a developer or someone interested on web, HTML is a skill that will continue to be in demand for years to come. That's it for the video. If you have gained some knowledge through this video, make sure you hit the like button. If you are someone who is new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.